Someone who's doomed, who could that person be, ya Jama'ah? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you all from this. Say Ameen. No one wants to be doomed, right? But even sometimes people who say La ilaha illallah, they're still considered believers, right? But they can still be doomed if they do certain things. One of these things probably people don't pay attention to very well, but it's so dangerous and it's so significant. To the extent the Prophet ﷺ, even he negates almost the perfect faith of a person who falls into this kind of sin. What is that? Let's see what the Prophet ﷺ said in this hadith. This hadith is under the chapter of Haqqul Jar, the right of the neighbors. قال عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال والله لا يؤمن والله لا يؤمن والله لا يؤمن. In this hadith, the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم probably took the people by surprise. He said, by Allah, he's not a true believer. By Allah, he's not a true believer. By Allah, he's not a true believer. What would you guys expect after that? It would be a big shock, right? Why did the Prophet ﷺ repeat that 3 times anyway? Why did he repeat that 3 times? Tawqid, emphasis. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at some ulama, they say, when the Prophet ﷺ repeats something 3 times, he repeats it in 3 directions. Why is that? So he gives attention, he gives basically attention to each side of the gathering and the congregation. Like if he speaks always like this, those on the side, they might feel left out. But when he repeats something, he repeats it multiple times, like Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she said, Kana Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he used to repeat the statement multiple times. Hatta yufhama anha. So people can understand from him. So when the Prophet used to speak, he used to turn to the right, he used to turn to the left, he used to turn to the people who are actually in front of him to make sure that everybody understands the statement. So he says, Wallahi la yu'min. By Allah, he is not a true believer. By Allah, he is not a true believer. By Allah, he is not a true believer. Now everybody heard that statement, right? What is going on through their minds and their hearts right now? Who is he? Like, whoa, they got scared, right? First of all, they thought the Prophet was speaking about one person in particular, right? And if the Prophet was speaking about one person in particular, and they knew how the Prophet was inspired, that means Allah has told about somebody that he's not a true believer. That means the person is considered what? Munafiq, hypocrite. That person is doomed, right? And that congregation of Medina had many, many hypocrites. So people were so terrified, scared to be exposed and publicly be called by name that this person is not a believer, therefore he is a hypocrite. That was a very scary statement for them. So now when the Prophet says he's not a true believer, he's not a true believer, he's not a true believer, everybody's just like, whoa, who could that be? And now suddenly everybody's thinking about who? About themselves. If someone like Umar radiallahu anhu, he suspected himself, right? Umar suspected himself. He went to Hudayfa, he goes, I ask you by Allah, did the Prophet call me munafiq? Did he call me hypocrite? That's Umar radiallahu anhu. So here everybody probably suspecting in that moment right now that they're doomed. Oh my God, this is... Then they say, قالوا من يا رسول الله? Who is he? Again, they're expecting the Prophet ﷺ to give one name in particular. But the Prophet ﷺ, he wasn't speaking about one individual in particular. He was speaking about a category. He said, الذي لا يأمن جاره بوائقه. One whose neighbor does not feel safe from his evil. Who could that be, Jama'ah? Any guess? Who could that be? One whose neighbor cannot feel safe from his evil. That could be anybody, right? Could be me, could be you, could be the one sitting next to you, anybody. Which means in order to avoid falling into this category, what do you need to do? You make sure your neighbors are safe from your evil. What kind of evil are we talking about, Jama'ah? Are we talking about throwing rocks at them and cursing at them and painting their doors, with graffiti and all that stuff? Is that what we're talking about? That's part of it, obviously. But what else that could be something that is considered evil in the standards and the culture of neighborhood? Like what? Huh? Is it ignoring them? I mean, that's going to be neutralizing it. But what about jealousy? Backbiting, probably. Keep talking to them about, or everybody else. Especially nowadays, we have actually apps, like Nextdoor app, for example. If you guys know what that app is, people in the same zip code, same neighborhood, they can chit chat and talk to each other about what's going on in the neighborhood. And sometimes some neighbors, they talk about other neighbors. Like, these are terrorists, these are this, there is that, and all this kind of stuff happening on these, subhanAllah, on these apps. And it's sometimes depressing just to read how people comment about each other, Allah musta'an. That's evil. That is evil. Imagine if Muslims get involved and engage in this kind of conversation about their neighbors and on that app. Well, everybody in the neighborhood and the zip code would know about the number of their house, the street where they live in. So basically they know which house is that, meaning they're exposing them to even more danger and more evil. Okay, how about, blocking their driveway? What do you guys think of that? Is that evil? Of course. How about, parking your car on their front lawn? I mean, alhamdulillah, they're our neighbors. They'll be okay with that. What do you guys think? What if your kids, they keep going to their flowers because their flowers are so pretty, so they keep picking their flowers off? You say, mashallah, our neighbors are good. They know their kids. They don't mind it, inshallah ta'ala. But they paid money for this. So whatever they consider something you hate for yourself, and you hate that people will do to you in the house, in the neighborhood, make sure that you don't expose your neighbor to this. Now, we're not asking you to take the extra mile and be nice to them. We don't ask you to knock on each one's door and give them a hug every time you come back from work. And every time you go to work in the morning, says, do you guys want anything? Can I get you something from the grocery store? You don't have to do that with them. Just simply don't be bad. Don't let them see any evil from you. If they're not going to see any good from you, just don't let them see anything evil from you. Otherwise, that threat the Prophet ﷺ mentions is really, really dangerous. He said, ﷺ, in another narration, لا يدخل الجنة, which means, this explains the meaning of the other narration. The Prophet says, Wallahi la yu'min. He's not a true believer, he's not a true believer, he's not a true believer. The other narration says, لا يدخل الجنة. He will not enter Jannah, the one whose neighbor is not safe from his evil. That's very dangerous. Last point and last question probably might come to someone's mind. Does that mean if someone acts in a bad way towards their neighbors, Muslims or non-Muslim, doesn't matter. If someone acts that bad to the neighbor, does it mean based on this hadith, this person will be completely considered, a'udhu billah, out of the fold of Islam? Because the Prophet says, Wallahi la yu'min, right? He's not a true believer. Well, look at the translation that I'm using. He's not a true believer. Didn't say he's not a believer. What does that exactly mean? That means this statement actually speaks about the perfection of their faith, not the validity of the faith. So if someone falls into this trap, into this category, that means it's not they go out of the fold of Islam. No, it's just a matter of quality of the faith will be considered in jeopardy. If the person becomes consistent in other acts, it might take them out of the fold of Islam. It's just like in the other hadith when the Prophet ﷺ says, Ayatul munafiqi thalath, the sign of the hypocrites are 3, and he mentioned there's 3 signs. The ulama, they say that doesn't mean the person is fully hypocrite, but the person basically has qualities of hypocrisy if they practice these things. Similar to this hadith as well, in this hadith. Also in the ayah in Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن طَائِفَةٌ مِّنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اقْتَتَلُوا فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا. If 2 groups of the believers fight against each other, then reconcile between them. He called them believers even though they fought against each other. And we know the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the hadith that if people they fight, basically the swords meet, both of them are in Jahannam. So that's basically is a sign of hypocrisy and kufr, but doesn't make the person again kafir out of fold of Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from any acts of hypocrisy, Rabbil Alameen, or to be evil to our neighbors, Ya Rabbil Alameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who have good neighborhood, Ya Allah. Wallahu a'lam. Any questions, Jama'ah? Yes?
The Prophet explained this act of evil
To the people?
to people like some examples that if you do these things.
No. Did the Prophet, the question is, did the Prophet ﷺ explain this evil in any way? Like, did he give any measure? What does the evil mean? The answer is, well, no, I don't know that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned any of that in the hadith. But he says, he used the word, مَنْ جَارَهُ بَوَائِقَ. And bawa'iq in the Arabic language it's a general statement for shurur, which means all kinds of evil. He didn't say major or minor. Like anything that's considered bad, anything people considered evil in the context of neighborhood, it will count. Like if you throw trash in front of their driveway, for example. Even if you, let's say you're the only house where the lawn in front of your house is, mashallah, is like the savannah, has become 3 feet high. And everybody's, mashallah, maintaining their households and their cleanness of their lawn and flowers and so on. Why? Because that will affect the quality of the neighborhood and the prices and the reputation of the area and so forth. So that also counts actually as part of the evil. But is it something like blocking someone's driveway or throwing trash at their place? No. But definitely it is considered bad that you need to take care of. Wallahu a'lam. Nah. Yes.
If that person, let's say a person does that for a period of time, but then stops doing all of that, do you have to go apologize to the neighbors, or does he simply have to change his habit?
What talking about what?
Like evil.
The evil. If someone had some kind of evil against the neighbors in the area and so on, do they have to go and seek forgiveness from everybody? Well, if it was done on that app, for example, one statement saying to all the neighbors I've hurt, intentionally or unintentionally, I apologize, I seek your forgiveness, blah, 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 and we're done. But if it wasn't done there, do you have to go and knock on each one's door? I mean, there is no obligation, but if you know something that it's haqq of the neighbor that you need to give it back to them in any way, then you're going to have to go. And let them know, just, hey, by the way, I think I owe you that much money because my kids, they destroy your, let's say, your shrubs and bushes in the area. You should do that. Wallahu a'lam. And by the way, just to give you an idea, Jamal, just to give you a disclaimer over here. When you try to show kindness to your neighbors, also keep it within the context of what is considered reasonable. Because unfortunately, as Muslim, you might try to be that good neighbor to your neighbors around you. Some of them maybe they don't understand that concept like we do as Muslims, so they might take advantage of you. Do you let go and let them take advantage of you? The answer is no. And being frank with you, something happened with me actually a few years back when we first moved over here. We had a trampoline in the backyard, and one of those windy nights, what happened is that in the next day in the morning, we wake up. It was very windy actually, very, very windy at night. So when we woke up the next day in the morning, there was no trampoline in the backyard. A big trampoline, huge, disappeared, vanished. And I'm like, Ya Allah, where did it go? What happened to it? I hope someone stole it, but no one was hurt because of that. But subhanAllah, I went out looking crazy in the morning, early in the morning, looking for it. I was just looking all around, and then finally I found it 4 or 5 houses ahead on the front yard, actually in the driveway of one of the neighbors. Alhamdulillah, no cars were damaged, no lives were lost. Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal. But the trampoline hit a couple of houses, so broke the fence between me and the neighbor next door. And the guy next door went over his roof and then eventually fell in front of the 3rd house. So as a neighbor, good neighbor, I went to their houses, knocked on the door, says, hey guys, I had my trampoline, did so and so. So I apologize if there's anything I could do for you. Inshallah, I would appreciate if you let me know so I can do something about it. Man, after 2 days, these guys brought me a list. And I realized that they're trying to take advantage, of course. The roof was destroyed anyways because of not the trampoline, because of the weather. So they wanted to do the whole thing, and they're asking me basically to pay that much money. And I'm just like looking at him, I says, so you basically want me to pay your co-pay with the insurance company, right? He goes, no, I didn't mean that. I says, are you serious? That's what you're trying to do right now. So they want me to pay basically their share with the insurance, for them to fix it. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to fix that fence between me and you, and that's it. So eventually, if that courtesy that you show is going to be taken advantage of, you have all the right to stop it. Wallahu a'lam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.